Let's get into the veto then and see if the picks and bans will affect the outcome of this game or if there'll be any more stock given to either of our competitors. Flea, I'm going to start with you on this one. I know you're a bit of my personal stats man. I do absolutely love it. What is sticking out to you here?
Right, well, we're starting off on Veil of Laugh, moving into Ruins, Molten Falls, Corrupted Keep, and Awoken. But keep in mind, this is a best-of-5 game, so the first to 3 wins will take home the victory. Now, looking at some of the champion picks, we're gonna see the BJ up against the Galena to start with. Nothing out of the ordinary right there. Ruins, we're gonna see the Strogg versus the Ranger. Also pretty standard picks. I'm liking the Sorlak coming out on Molten Falls. Spart1e quite enjoys playing as the Lizard. And then for Corrupted Keep, we're going to see a Visor up against the Ison. Visor is a bit of a strange pick on that map, because it's a bit of a smaller map, so you don't usually get that much utility out of that piercing sight. And then finally, on the Decider, if it comes to that, we're going to see Athena versus Death Knight.
I am concerned about that Decider for Garpy, purely because of the champion matchup. I know that if there is that point-blank situation where Death Knight can get that kind of all-or-nothing burst damage, there is the potential that Garpy can, just get the rockets, get that one good slash, and that's it, right? But there's just this absolute issue of mobility versus some of the worst mobility in the game, and I'm a little bit nervous about that because it's Awoken, but we'll see if we even reach that point.
That's the important factor, right? Is obviously, will we actually make it there? Being a best of 5, there's potential for this one to maybe go the whole hog and give us an absolute spectacle to start us off, but it could be quite a clean and decisive affair. It depends on who's playing. Well, I'm excited to see some momentum coming back through from Garpy. I would like him to sort of show us the fire that's been lit under him. Obviously, his grind through challenges was a grueling one, so we've seen that in the off-season, he's been putting a lot in. Dan, for you, what are your thoughts on this series?
I think I don't disagree with what anyone said. It's definitely going to be a close affair. I haven't seen an awful lot of Garpy recently. I think even on his worst day, he's more stable than Spart1e. I do think Spart1e's quite temperamental and it's all or nothing with him. And so if Garpy plays the way I know he can, he definitely can take it. As Ryan said, I am also very nervous if we get to that last map with that matchup, but I think it probably end before then.
Well, it looks like we are ready for this one. Flea, Ryan, I'm going to leave it in your very capable hands and voices a best of 5 between these two bulls. The British Bulldog versus the Swedish Superstar. Take it away.
It would be nice to hear Garpy's theme song again. That's all I'm going to say on that one. But as we load in, that matchup, I mean, it's quite a classic mix of champions. We have to remind, now we're into this kind of best of 5 situation, the first of 3 maps. It does open up champions that you would otherwise not see, so that you reach those later stages. That's a fast frag, by the way. You reach a stage where, okay, maybe you're going to be left with champions you otherwise wouldn't have picked, so the diversity gets challenged. But within the first 15 seconds, Spart1e is going to pick up that first frag, and he has control of the Mega as well. Looks like dual wields ready to rock, and so are the dual super shotguns. Garpy hits the rail, but that downtime punish damage was way too severe.
Yeah, very aggressive push from Spart1e, already getting that 2-frag lead. Looks like he might consider conceding heavy. Spart1e doing a bit of damage right there. The totem, of course, is something to keep in mind on a map like this. There are a lot of places where you can play some really nice totems as the rails are just coming through from Spart1e. Garpy going in close, but he survives with 30 points of health. This might be an opportunity for the British player, though. He knows that Spart1e is low, and he's just gonna push in. Rockets will be taken by him. And that's a rocket, I think, through the grate from below. Beautiful shot from Garpy to put himself on the scoreboard.
Garpy also able to not take a massive amount of damage. There's always that danger on Veil of Nath that if a fight doesn't quite go your way, if you can rely on at least doing massive damage, the totem almost slipped through the cracks. But he's going to get the frag anyway, 3-2. Garpy, there is the chance for momentum here, but as I was just about to say before the fight rudely interrupted me, it's all about how much damage you can do before you go down, because sometimes a refrag is totally possible, even with BJ's passive of regenerating to the next 25 stack.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why it's so critical, especially on a smaller map like Veil, where you can very easily just rush your opponent off spawn, or when you respawn, find out where they are and just jump down their throat pretty much instantly. It's indeed crucial that when you do take a fight, you've always got that exit route. You've always got a good position to try and avoid taking as much damage as you possibly can. Garpy dodging out of the way of a rocket right there. It's 10 seconds for Heavy to spawn. Spart1e has the better position to punish him if he decides to go for it. He's gonna drop down straight away. Looks like Spart1e wants none of that. He's just gonna loop back around and get himself set up for Mega instead.
He gets a decent chunk of damage though, does Garpy, as Spart1e goes through that teleporter, but that is a pretty important rail. Spart1e was looking to hit the second one, but smart movement by Garpy there. Not going to give up a free angle, especially after the Mega. You kind of need every inch you can take against BJ with dual wield, if he's going to pull that trigger at any given moment. Garpy currently in a better position for stack, but we have to remember, Spart1e's the one in the lead when it comes to frags. Right now, Garpy establishing his control over the map. Has a pretty solid handle actually over both of them, but it looks like Spart1e gave up the heavy to put himself in a better position for the Mega. And Garpy knows that. He's not going to push too hard here. Yeah, he's going to show tons of respect and just disengage. I like Spart1e's choice there to put himself in position for Mega instead. And there's a decent delay in between the two of them at the moment.
Yep, this might be setting up something nice, and it's very interesting to see that Spart1e, Mega is up right behind him, but he still hasn't gone for it, waiting to keep that delay tight and low. I don't think he's got exact timing on heavy, so he might be waiting out to hear a bit more information to get that item cycle down perfectly. Now Garpy's gonna push in aggressively. That's a good opening rocket. It's gotta be careful though. That's a nasty choke point to push through. It's gonna be LG on LG. Spart1e is just gonna drop down and disengage. Still sticking around, looking to do something with the shotgun. Both players pretty low. It will be Garpy, the British player, to disengage first, and he will be giving up Mega to the Swede. This might be an opportunity for Spart1e. Even though he doesn't have any armor to his name, he is going to be able to steal away the heavy and set up a nice rotation for both of the major items.
And Garpy, he's in a pretty tricky position now actually, because Spart1e's really forced his hand. And just look at the difference in stack. Spart1e's able to kind of seize that control. A little bit of a cheeky totem. Garpy hasn't seemed like he's had amazing success on some of his totems here, Flea. Like, he's been going for some of them and they've been kind of missing their mark, not contributing towards the fight the way they should. You can always tell that some of his fight, like, dedications are coming down to a totem being in play that isn't hitting what it's supposed to hit. And I really think it's throwing him off his game. Look at the control now Spart1e's sitting on. Garpy has to really kind of work his backside off to just chip away at this fat stack that Spart1e's working with.
He also actually missed. Yeah, he missed that totem placement. He didn't connect to where he wanted it to be, so he just tossed it off the map for it to instantly disappear into the void. I like that the game has been slowing down a bit though, because at first, like the first minute or two, it was just constant brawls, constant fights, a lot of frags happening relatively quickly, but right now both players have set into a bit more of a rhythm. Rocket coming out, yeah. Garpy taking so much damage. Spart1e, can he capitalize off of this?
Rocket knocking Spart1e into the heavy, I think, was just the icing on the bad cake if you're in Garpy's position. But again, Spart1e, he's not using these opportunities to push super hard. Garpy is kind of consistently able to lick his wounds and recharge. That's a really cute little flyby rail. And it's going to force Spart1e to back off a little bit. There is one sneaky little totem in the background. Oh, absolute direct, but he gets hit by the rocket all the same. A potential opening here for Garpy. It's going to be snuffed away. And more work to do now if you're in Garpy's shoes. Great stuff from Spart1e.
Still not a bad situation at all for Garpy. He did 190 damage in that engagement, and right now Spart1e is just in that basic stack of 100-100. If Garpy manages to pick up a single small armor, he will be tight in terms of stack, and he can easily make a push on one of the next major items. Unfortunately for him, can't quite find a small armor to top himself up, so he has to give up Mega to Spart1e, who now has top control as well. Will drop down on heavy. This is not looking good for Garpy. Takes a bad rail on the exit too. Spart1e's rail is looking good. Doing a lot of damage with that weapon. Even when Garpy pushes him in these bad situations, Spart1e always finding a way to at least equalize things a bit.
And when they hit their mark, it's always when it matters the most. When you really don't want to take a rail. You're just trying to push hard. As you can see here, 6.5 minutes of this map already gone, and Spart1e's in a more than comfortable lead. A little bit of ambush damage there from Garpy. Spart1e putting a lot of confidence in his rail, but actually before he even takes a shot, takes a ton of damage. Garpy disengages just to snatch up that heavy armor. And this is an interesting position. The British lad, see what he can do here. Looking to head him off. Yeah, looking for a couple of those kind of sneaky little rocket angles.
I like it. A little bit of a rocket jump. won't amount to much. Garpy still has a bit of a stack advantage, but it's actually Spart1e who manages to get himself onto the Mega first. Garpy will have to retreat now, Heavy up in just a few seconds, and the Swede once again has got a good position. Just gonna drop straight on down on that LG. Brave it, the rockets are solid as well. Spart1e, he has to make something out of this. He cannot let Garpy escape. He's got a sliver of health left. Will the shotgun or the LG be able to clear it up? Indeed, it will. 5-2 with 2.5 minutes left on the clock. This is starting to look dire for Garpy.
Looking for a lot more of that rocket damage. Garpy was able to hit that kind of last-ditch effort rail, but Spart1e's got so much stack to work with, it just doesn't really seem to matter all that much. In all of these fights, so Garpy is getting some kind of opening damage. It's not even like he's tickling by any stretch, but Spart1e is hitting every single defensive shot that he needs to. So you're combining the fact that he has full control over the map, and when a fight breaks out, he's hitting the money shot pretty much every time. It's been a fantastic map for Spart1e so far. And even then, just gets a lot of damage, knocks Garpy up, knows he can safely use the teleporter during this downtime. We'll see what Garpy can do. 2 minutes on the clock is enough time to mount a potential comeback, but as each frag ticks down and down Flea, I am a bit doubtful that a comeback is going to happen.
Yeah, Spart1e is now really on top of the game. That rail though, and another one, Garpy. 3 minutes to go for 3 frags, most definitely possible, especially on a map like Vale. Here we go, will land the opening rail as well. Misses the second one though. That definitely didn't go the way that he wanted it to go.
I mean, Garpy got a frag at the perfect time, right after Spart1e took the heavy. I say, maybe I spoke too soon, because right as Garpy got the frag, Spart1e took the heavy, and there was pretty much nothing for Spart1e to kind of re-establish. However, as is the nature of Vale, he has been able to get a really chunky stack and the dual wield. Garpy forced into a pretty uncomfortable position here. We'll see if he can get out with his life, but he's so weak. I do have my concerns. Just over a minute on the clock to get 2 frags. Spart1e knows he doesn't even have to push. Why risk it? We have a minute to go.
With this little time on the clock, Garpy needs to be constantly pushing, always on the aggressive. He cannot afford to waste any time just scouring the map for any sort of heals. The silver lining is that he does have those triple totems at the ready, so he gets that overstack heal, that additional mega that he's basically carrying with him in his pocket at all times, but he needs more than health, he needs damage. Can't quite get the rail to land, and DLG starts peppering down on him. And all Spart1e has to do is stay in top control. He's got 30 seconds left, 2 frags. If he can continue dishing out some defensive damage like this, the Swede might be able to take the first map.
And
Click!
Yeah, Spart1e is also picking some awkward angles where Garpy is just not even really able to get damage. He's not in a position to land a significant shot. Out of rail shots, which means that he was down to just his rocket. And Spart1e, as long as he has the high ground, he has nothing to worry about. Garpy made him sweat for it, but it's definitely safe to say that Spart1e was pretty much in full control for the vast majority of that map. And the first map will go to Spart1e.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to note that even when Spart1e wasn't in full control, he was still in such a good position that he did that constant amount of damage. Every single time that Garpy made a push or managed to steal an item, Spart1e would start to maybe land a rail, do a bit of tri-bolt damage, land a rocket at a sneaky shot around the corner, something like that. And that just kept Garpy at bay for a very significant portion of the map, preventing him from ever getting comfortable even when he was in control. So very nicely played from Spart1e. I think the defensive damage is really what made the difference in this one.
100%, because if you kind of look at the vast majority of that map, that real kind of chunk in the middle, that every time Garpy has what you could consider an opening, an opportunity to get something on the go, besides the start where Spart1e just had those kind of lightning fast 3 frags in less than a minute. When the fights were breaking out, and yeah, we're seeing it in the replay, on top of Spart1e's excellent defensive damage, Garpy missed 2 or 3 potentially game-changing totems that would have either damaged Spart1e or allowed Garpy to heal up in the middle of the fight. And we do see that time and time again, how much of a real sort of changer it can be. In Garpy's shoes, though, a couple of dropped pieces of execution really led to some unfavorable fights, and Spart1e just played rock solid. I think he just played the map better.
Absolutely, and I am definitely in retrospect questioning the Galena pick. In theory, she works very well on a map like Vale, where you've got that central teleporter that is so important. You've got a few bounce pads, so you can booby trap those very effectively. But in the end, I feel like Garpy ended up wasting so many of the totems, and it wasn't until the final minute or two that he actually did get that overstack boost going, and at that point it was almost too late for him to still mount that comeback. So not so sure about the pick. We're gonna see if Strock going into map 2 might help him out a little better.
I mean, the goal of Ruins is movement sometimes. And that's ultimately like we see so often throughout the course of Pro League that when you have a champion that can really kind of just glide around the map like the crouch sliders can, Strog being a huge one these days, it's the map for it. So champion-wise, Garpy's in a decent position. The Ranger coming out from Spart1e, though, that's always going to be something that you have to respect, particularly on those kind of key locations where one Dire Orb can just change the tide of everything. And Spart1e, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, but he's not shy of those kind of all-or-nothing plays, those moments where it's, okay, I'm going to go all in now, and he'll just, bam, Dire Orb is like the skeleton key for some of those pushes.
Yeah, it's also a pretty vertical map, Ruins. If you really look at it, it often has these 3 different levels, so you can very easily, by using the orb, get all the way from the bottom of the map straight up towards the Mega, or you can use it to go from Rail quickly to Mega, you can go from Heavy straight back up, so there's a lot of areas where you can really use these sneaky orbs, and we've seen so many of those over the game's lifespan that is going to be interesting to see if Garpy can really, or Spart1e rather, can put them to good use.
Well, Spart1e's definitely going into this next map riding a bunch of the momentum. He was able to win a comfortable Veil of Nath. The ball's in Garpy's court now to make something happen. He's going to spawn near Mega side. Not the worst situation in the world where he has a ton of stack, he's got the rocket, and he looks to aggress towards LG almost immediately because, I mean, it's just a safe bet that there's going to be some kind of activity there. Spart1e's going to push forward, hit a couple of decent rails. Garpy taking tons of damage, and that Pika was a death sentence. You cannot afford to be out in the open there.
I feel like so much of that fell on that slide movement that are from Spart1e, or from Garpy rather. He kind of got stuck going up the stairs with his slide, messed it up ever so slightly, and it led to a grave punish coming out because he was kind of stuck sitting there like a sitting duck at the bottom of the stairs, and Spart1e mercilessly took advantage of it, and right now is going to get himself the Mega health as well, got a stack advantage, and is taking control of that ever-important center of the map.
It's got to be said, it's not even 1 minute in, and Spart1e's rails have been fantastic. And really kind of what is allowing this aggression to be laid on as thick as it is. He's getting perfect reads on where Garpy's going to be. He's set up for the perfect angles. That was just easy money at the end of the day. But these aggressive rails, where if he misses a single shot, the amount of free damage he's going to take might even turn the tide of the fight. He's just not even in those positions. His execution has been pretty damn good so far.
Yeah, Spart1e definitely positioning himself expertly around the map. And again, he's just waiting for Garpy to make a move and pounce on any sort of mistake. Setting up towards Heavy, not making a sound whatsoever. In comes Garpy, he's gonna hear it. Oh, that's a bit of a...
Any champion that wasn't
misfire.
Ranger, that would have been way more punishing. But
oh, absolutely.
Ranger doesn't have to care much about self-damage, thanks to his passive.
And now Spart1e again. I really like how Spart1e's approaching this, keeping in control of the center of the map and now doing the damage where he can. Finding an angle. Neither player is even gonna land a single shot in that situation, and Spart1e realizes, you know, I don't have to stick around right here. I've got Mega just behind me. I'm 2 frags in the lead. I'm just gonna play it smart. 1, 2, and that'll spell disaster for Garpy as he goes down once again. Might be another frag to follow it up. Out comes the Peeker. That was an extreme kamikaze last resort attempt of doing any damage he could, but it will be Spart1e extending his lead further.
With the aggression the way it was, you can understand Spart1e going straight Garpy. I think I'm getting so mixed up.
I know.
The heavy fresh off the spawn wasn't a terrible idea because at least you're taking it away from Spart1e, but again, it's just, there's so much comfort in these fights. A couple of frags ago where it was just, I'm going to peek and hang on a minute. Very aggressive Garpy. And there's that Dire Orb. Free damage, disengage, straight back into a better position. And just like that, Spart1e is back in control here. We're going to get some damage. Garpy, it's got to be said, his rails have been costing him so much. There are so many misses coming out. And now he's weak. He can't sit around and fight anymore. Okay, kamikaze. That's a free shot.
That earlier engagement almost went wrong for Spart1e, exactly how you described it though. Going for these risky rails is beautiful when it works out, but then when you miss the first one, you miss the second one, all of a sudden your opponent has dealt 100-something points of damage on you for entirely free, and that put him in a bad situation, so he had to use the Dire Orb to escape. But still, 5 frags of a lead with 3.5 minutes played. That's a really good result for Spart1e, and he's definitely in the driver's seat for the remainder of this map.
And there's a lot of pressure on Garpy to kind of, as soon as possible, step up that rail accuracy. He's having so many potential shots here where he's in a position, he's got it laid out, but he's just not hitting his mark. And even then, The fact that Spart1e hit that mid-air before getting the frag, it's forced Garpy into just a basic everyday stack.
Yep.
He has the heavy, but we'll see what he can do from this. Fresh off the spawn, I am kind of concerned about his aim so far. His rail has not been his best friend. Springs the trap, Spart1e goes for the big play. He is able to steal away the Mega, but the next objective might be a little bit of that armor. Spart1e looking a bit tender.
That was a beautiful but extremely risky play because he did damage with the orb flying through his opponent and then he just teleported right behind him, said nothing personal, kid, and just stole away the Mega right from underneath his nose. But still, it's Garpy who's got the stack advantage, he's got that extra armor to his name, and he might actually have Spart1e trapped in a bad corner of the map.
Just missing rails
missing,
again.
yeah.
I mean, it's hard sometimes to fault someone's rail when the shots they're going for are very tight ones indeed, but still, I mean, the fact of the matter remains, if you're going for the shot and getting the trade, okay, who's going to get the spawn? Garpy. Looks like he's going to be able to get a decent amount of that, actually, but he's going to get some of those weapons fresh off the spawn. It looks like it's an LG and a rocket launcher. That wasn't a bad spawn by any stretch of the imagination.
Still in a tricky position though, Garpy not ready to let his prey escape just yet, will finally settle for the Mega instead. He knows he's got plenty of time left to work with, we're only halfway through the map, so he doesn't have to overextend and force anything that might put him in a bad situation for the second half of this game. Now Spart1e is actually railable, one single rail shot will kill him right now, so he's looking to get himself another health bubble. There we go.
He's nervous about the light because I think he knows the light was a little bit risky.
Yep.
That's the issue with some of the lights on a map like this, is that, especially that one, as out in the open as it is, you can really get stuck in like no man's land and just railed for days. But for now, Spart1e's looking for that safe option. Actually, I love that play. Being as safe as possible, listening out when the coast is clear, getting those lights. He's already got one of them, he's looking for the second. But again, he's trying to give Garpy as little information as possible where he knows he can safely take it. Heavy's now been taken. Garpy with a much bigger stack, but the question is, what does he do with the position that he's in? Because Spart1e has that lead. 4 frags is certainly nothing to look away from.
I also love that play right there. Standing in a corner, looking down with the rockets facing away from the doorway, just so that not even the tip of your weapon would reveal your position. Spart1e right now appears to have switched to a fully defensive and passive play style. He knows 3.5 minutes, that's something that you might be able to run down the clock with. Garpy, all the pressure is on him. He's the one who has to make the plays. He is the one that has to push aggressively. And Spart1e, we've seen it in map 1. His defensive shots, his defensive protective damage has been so good. Can he do more of it? That's a lot of damage. Garpy in a bad situation right now and even has to give up Mega as well. And just like that, Spart1e, by doing most of the damage, can easily flip control and put himself back into the driver's seat.
Now Spart1e gets the best of both worlds because he was playing a nice and slow reserve defensive game, and at the same time he now has control over the map at the same time. Garpy, at this point Spart1e, I mean, if he gets a frag, sure, wonderful, but he's not even going to really care if he doesn't frag Garpy in this situation. As long as he keeps Garpy behind and he keeps Garpy afraid to go for these big fights. Should the time come where Garpy has to make something happen, kind of like there, where he doesn't want to just give away the Mega for free, he risks giving himself a bad angle and just giving up a frag anyway. Spart1e has kind of had a chokehold over the entirety of this map from the moment things began. Those early frags that he was able to seize control of, and although Garpy, I mean, he's had the mobility, right? He's been able to navigate from point A to point B, but again, Spart1e has just been the more reserved player. I think he's been the more patient player. He's now really just catching the desperation from Garpy. Garpy forced into that terrible position where you just have to try and make something happen. You know, you don't have time anymore. Garpy's going to take that free damage. The Mega's going to get taken. I mean, this map is as good as done.
Yeah, I also love the decision to just go for Garpy himself rather than the peeker right there. Spart1e just made the split-second decision of, you know what, I can tank this damage, and to me it's more important to land that free 90 damage on you, just so I can keep culling your stack and keeping you low and on the back foot, rather than just take down the peeker and keep myself stacked nicely, because he knew he had some good items waiting behind him. And here we go, we're gonna see another confrontation. Garpy, if it's gonna happen, it's gotta happen now. Good opening rail, and another one. Spart1e will fall. Garpy, minute and 30 seconds left to go for 5 frags. Possible in theory, but it's gonna be difficult. Instantly gonna find him. Can he knock him off the map? Spart1e uses the orb to stay within bounds. This could be a comeback.
It could be. I'm just looking at this map. That's the only thing I've got my eyes on, is that if we were on a far smaller map than perhaps, but there is so much space that Spart1e, if he can just drag out every single one of these frags as much as he possibly can, there's a potential. I mean, Garpy and Spart1e, it's a little bit of a sort of classic matchup at this point. They have gone back and forth in the past. Garpy gets another frag, 3 more, but here's the problem. He's so weak. Even with the Mega, he needs to get some armor.
Yep. And I think we're really seeing the mobility come into play right now. As we said earlier, right? Garpy has got the consistent mobility. He's got the general speed to get from point A to point B and move around the map quickly. But Spart1e, he's got that burst mobility just to get into a fight instantly or catch your opponent off guard or even escape. And that is helping him out so much. Garpy does get the read, figures out where his opponent is hiding, but can he actually do anything with it? Looks like Spart1e will avoid most of the damage. Garpy taking a fair bit himself, and I think that with 15 seconds left to go, this one's basically done for. Spart1e again hiding in that little alcove right there. And I think that that is going to spell GG as Garpy claims his own life, and that is actually putting Spart1e on match point already. GG indeed.
A 2-0 early. I can't say I would have 100% expected that from happening. But the way things are going is that Spart1e had such a high level of control and comfort for just a good like 3/4 of that map at least, that when Garpy finally got going, it was too late. The damage was already done, and there's always that air that Spart1e, there was that immediate like light switch style change where he just completely changed the game. It was, I'm going to go snail's pace, dig my heels in, give Garpy 0 information, and then there was that one moment where he got that free damage on Garpy around the kind of like 7-8 minute mark, and maybe a bit before that, I'll have to remember. But fundamentally, on top of that exact switch of game plan working like a treat, it was, he got control as well.
Yeah,
that one item, and now he's got the lead, he's got control, and he's playing defensive, and Garpy's struggling. So it's just, Spart1e's been playing it so smart. He's doing incredibly well today.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a bit of a trend emerge here, right? Spart1e is the one to get the frags toward the beginning of the map, and then once he got himself that little bit of a lead, he's like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna use my defensive capabilities to their fullest extent, you're gonna have to come to me, you're gonna have to force the engagements, and I'm going to punish that mercilessly. And when I feel like I've done enough damage on your approach, I'm going to capitalize off of it just to extend my lead. And then when there does eventually come a point where Garpy gets himself in control and is getting ready to chase down his opponent, Spart1e is just like, well, okay, you've got a minute left for 5 frags. Good luck. I'm just gonna plus back, and you're out of luck.
We have to just look at some of these statistics. It has to be said that, particularly early on, it wasn't as prominent later, because it wasn't quite as much, I think, the game plan, was it? But the rail. Spart1e was hitting some very impressive, kind of slightly show-off rails at the start of the map, but they were vital for his early pushes. And the entire kind of tone that was set on the map came from those early pushes where huge damage comes out, Garpy just gets like pinned to a corner, pins it against a wall, the rails just never seem to stop landing. And it strongly feels like Spart1e did more than enough damage early, that all he had to do was just play solid from that point on, and Garpy was going to permanently play from behind. For a huge chunk of this series, it has felt like Spart1e's been the one that's in control, and Garpy's having to be on the back burner all the time.
And also that 46% LG, that's nothing to scoff at either, right? We've been talking a lot about the railgun, but I even wanted to point it out in-game. The tracking in some of these engagements on Spart1e's end was absolutely sublime. So it just comes to show that both of these players have got amazing fundamentals. Their technical skills when it comes to Quake are through the roof, and we're really seeing some good games. But so far, it's really just been Spart1e that's been able to manifest himself on the map, get the lead early, and then just ride it out until the end.
You're always going to be a bit concerned when a player is riding tons of momentum and they lock in saw lag.
Oh yeah.
The whole idea of just the speed, the stack, the damage on a map like Molten Falls where you can really fly around if you build up that momentum too. Hard to really count out Spart1e in this matchup. With how things are going, I think a 3-0 might even be possible, and this champion is not going to help matters.
No, not at all. Sorlag is one of the champions that Spart1e is also very comfortable with, so I can definitely see him do the exact same thing he's done before. Start off really aggressively, pounce on Garpy whenever he sees the opportunity, and then just play more of a defensive game for the remainder of the match. And this is also, Molten Falls is generally a pretty railgun-heavy map, and we've seen that when it comes to that particular weapon, it's definitely been Spart1e who's been dominating his opponent this time around.
It's just taking Garpy too long to get going, isn't it, Flea? He finally starts to have those signs of life where he's hitting the shots, he's making the pushes, but it's normally about 5 minutes and beyond. By that point, so much work is being done by Spart1e that Garpy, I mean, he has a mountain to climb every single map. We'll see if he's going to be able to dig his teeth into the next stage of Quake Pro League, or whether Spart1e is going to end his dreams early here for the Stage 3 finals.
I love that Garpy starts the match by saying, "Let the aim be with me." He's hoping that he's finally going to rev up that diesel engine of his, as you said, get himself that momentum going and start landing some of those nasty shots that so far have been almost exclusively on Spart1e's end.
But I mean, to be honest with you, I know Garpy, I mean, he's a bit of a joker, right? Like he's absolutely happy to have a good time, and he's always very lighthearted, especially when he plays online. But even within that joke at the start is hidden his own self-aware nature that he's not hitting the shots that he should be hitting. And in this matchup, I mean, they're both very agile champions, but the reality is one is significantly chunkier than the other. And it's all about the stack. If Garpy is not hitting those shots here, which he's doing a pretty decent job of so far, it's something that he's going to have to be worried about, because he's way more tender than Sorlag on a general basis.
Oh yeah, this is a matchup that you don't see all that often at the highest level of plays, and that's a light champion such as Anarchy up against a heavy one such as Sorlag, because that's the stack difference between the two of them inherently is just so massive that a Sorlag on base stack can almost rival a Garpy playing Anarchy nearly fully stacked. So Garpy definitely has to approach this the right way. He's got to deal a lot of that long-distance damage to soften up his opponent before he comes in up close to finish things off. That's a lot of spit damage coming through. Garpy does manage to survive, popping the injection there as well just to help him out with that extra bit of health. He's got the better positioning on the Mega, but in comes Spart1e. Good amount of shaft, almost flying off the map, and the rocket will find its mark. Garpy turning things around for the first map in this series, leading off.
I mean, that play from Spart1e was very much a two-parter. The first phase was get as much damage as you can, point blank, right as Mega's about to spawn, and then go aggressive. And he followed through that entire plan. It just came down to the positioning by Garpy. Garpy didn't want to overextend and give himself, give up the high ground, I suppose, as it were, for those free rocket damage. And Spart1e sticking around a little bit too long, and just some wonderful rockets from Garpy. The danger is, immediately that stack starts to make a huge difference. The spawn is going to be a bit different, and they do go in. Injection's going to get popped. Garpy saving his skin. And both players licking their wounds 100%. But with Heavy about to spawn, who's going to get there first? Thanks to the sheer speed of Anarchy. It is going to be Garpy.
Yep. Also just at the better positioning. And I feel like that probably wasn't the best engagement for Spart1e.
Wow!
Especially after the rocket into rail combo kill with Garpy. The gods must have heard his prayer, because he's landing a lot more shots than he did earlier on. 3-0. I hope Spart1e can stabilize this, because I don't agree with some of his positional choices. He put himself in a bad situation at Mega. Didn't have LG. All he basically had was landing those long distance rockets, trying to prevent his opponent from dropping onto it, and then he just jumps down himself after taking a lot of opening damage. So perhaps playing a bit too aggressively. He still has a lot of time left, so there's no need to force anything like that.
It's definitely safe sometimes to feel like you're just, you are the bully of the map. The natural stack difference can often make you feel like a god in these situations, but Garpy has been able to consistently show Spart1e at the moment that the stack difference, I mean, yeah, it's there, but I'm still going to hit every ounce of damage I need to. Garpy's the one sitting on a 3-0 lead so far. Heavy has been taken, so Spart1e has full control. Has taken Garpy a while to really kind of recover and get some of that stack back. Of course, the injection has been used, so he's going to get full HP at the very least. But that's where the stack difference really matters. There's loads of pressure now on Garpy to hit those entry rails, making sure they are as unreturned as he can possibly get them. Because if Spart1e's working on this massive stack, and by the way, the acid spit is ready to go. So if Garpy doesn't get some of that opening damage, he's in a world of hurt if Spart1e gets close.
I also just want to compliment Garpy's Nerves of Steel right there. He was on 24 points of health and he walked by 5 health bubbles just to get himself far away enough from his opponent to use that injection and then comfortably stack up with the small armor. At any time he could have just been shot in the back of a shotgun and that would have been it, but he knew that speed mattered more right there and so he just ignored all those resources. Really good play from Garpy. Keeping track of the item timing, he heard the armor being picked up through the wall, knew exactly the angle that Spart1e would come from, landed a nice rail, but takes a bad one in return too.
That's the danger in Garpy's position. I mean, we can't forget, I know he's spent a lot of this set being out of control, or the one that's having to play from behind, but he is the one that rules this map so far. That 3-0, thankfully there, that miss didn't result in a hit that Spart1e was able to land. Looking for more shots, and it's all about hit and run at the moment. Hit a rail here, get out, look for another opportunity. The bonus here for Garpy is that he has at least been able to get this mega. So this game of cat and mouse continues.
Right now, Garpy, again, taking a nice and defensive position where he's got these long angles towards the left, towards the right. He can hear his opponent come from any side of the map, and he's just gonna try and ride things out. Of course, 5 minutes left on the clock. That's too much to play an entirely defensive runaway game, but he can just switch to a passive playstyle and continue landing those shots, and that's exactly the strategy that our British player has adopted. There we go, another rail. Can he find some more damage? Won't be able to, but still, every single one of those rails essentially removes a full major item. So if Garpy can keep up that amount of pressure, it's going to be very difficult for Spart1e to get back into it.
Big ask, and it does come down to those nerves of steel that you talked about earlier, Flea. He has to hit every one of those instances where if Spart1e gets within kill range, one missed rail could spell disaster. He hasn't got his acid spit for 10 seconds, mind you. Oh, he's looking for it, he's cheeky. Garpy, so patient. If there's even a single risk that Spart1e's waiting on the other side, Garpy is just not giving it to him.
Yep, very good map awareness of the bridge. Oh, Spart1e, I don't know if he messed up his movement right there. I think he meant to jump down right away and then he just spotted his opponent, but this is bad for the British Bulldog as Spart1e, the party man from Sweden, finally puts himself on the board. 2 frags down, still plenty of time to work with. He's got the stack advantage. Garpy, can he get out? Waiting below. Good rail, little bit more will do it. Garpy, yeah, he gets out, he's got that air control, he's got the speed on the Anarchy, manages to escape. And Spart1e leaving up heavy for quite some time.
Yep, he wasn't interested in that first. If he can set up an angle first. The good thing is that Garpy was at least able to escape with his life in that situation. But, oh dear, maybe I spoke too soon. Head-on collision. Oh, but the trade! That's not terrible news, but again, who's going to get the spawn? Spart1e, better position for the Mega. But it's going to waste a little bit of time, that trade situation, so I do wonder how Garpy is going to recover here. He needs to get some armor himself. Here we go.
Rail is gonna miss. Surely Heavy will be going towards Spart1e. He's gonna rocket jump up, gonna waste no time whatsoever. Can he find some more damage? Will land a single rail. One more will off his opponent, not anymore. And he realizes it, he knows that that armor was picked up. And he said, nope, I'm out of here. That was too risky. Good decision from the Swede. Definitely shouldn't have stuck around. LG on LG, but Garpy will be able to get the Mega. Good rail as well. Spart1e is definitely switching to a higher gear, turning up the pressure, but he needs 2 frags just to tie things up.
He's only just not railable. The Heavy's going to stop that to a degree, but all of this disengaging, it's time. And he's running out of it. Garpy. I keep eyeing up his stack, and yeah, Spart1e, I'm not entirely confident he was prepared for Garpy to be in that position, because he wasn't even remotely looking that way. And it's shutting it down. Back to that game of immense pressure to be hitting those rails, but if he's hitting them... Oh, wow. Looks like Spart1e got caught by another rail in this situation. 1.5 minutes on the clock. But how does Spart1e find him? Get some delay. Oh, puts a lot of focus onto those mid-air rockets, but doesn't quite hit its mark.
And now nothing has really happened in the past minutes. Still the exact same scoreline, similar stacks to what we've had before. Spart1e's gotta step it up, but those rails, they are so punishing. Of course, Sorlak is a bit of a thick girl. She's quite the target. And Garpy is just, he's decided that running away is the game.
Oh, every time there's an angle.
There we go.
Every time there's an angle flea, you just feel it, don't you? You feel it inside. But this time, Spart1e was able to seize it. And remember, Garpy's been in control for most of this map. This could actually be disaster for the British Bulldog. He goes down again. Less than a minute on the clock. And Spart1e, if he wins in this final minute, he's actually going to take a 3-0 here versus Garpy. At the last second, what a heartbreaker it would be if you're a Garpy fan. But by no means is this over. We still have the rest of this map to get through. Spart1e can taste it.
I think Spart1e realizes that his opponent doesn't have a railgun yet. Garpy will loop back around and pick up that so important weapon that he's been using extremely well. Hang on, rockets aren't connecting. Garpy taking a lot of damage right there.
Oh no!
Rocket also dealing a phenomenal amount. Here we go, Garpy. What can he do to escape? Will he find a way out?
He has to be dead, Flea.
Yeah, Spart1e
This is a rock in a hard place right here. Oh no!
Go.
The final 10 seconds is enough to squeeze it out at the last second. Spart1e plays the long game. And by God, does it work. Well done.
Yeah, a bit of a heartbreaker, as you said, right? So close to the end. I almost feel like Spart1e deliberately waited to finish things off because he wanted to be as close to that 10-minute mark to avoid an immediate rush of the spawn. So you just waited, patiently landed one rocket to the left, one to the right, and that spelled the end of it. That's going to be a clean 3-0 for Spart1e from Sweden. Congratulations, as he secures his spot in the Quake Pro League, and Garpy will have to try again next season.
It's why, under no circumstances, do you ever count Spart1e out, really. That's just what it comes down to. He played phenomenally well. Garpy, he started to hit more shots on the final map, but it just felt like that gear that he shifted into, it had to be there earlier. It had to be there before map 1 even began. That's totally not how my voice sounds.
It's all right, mate. I can see it's taken it out of you because it looked like there was going to be so much more to go, but an abrupt finish in the end. Garpy, he lets it slip away. He had a lot of control on Molten, but those last few minutes just didn't go his way. The Swedish superstar did damage on the server and came out huge. I mean, let's just start from the beginning and work our way through this one, right? Obviously, a pretty fast series to open up the day. I don't think this is initially how we all expected it to go. We thought there would be more of a fight from Garpy, but it seemed like that fire came out a little bit too late into the game, Flea.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was just a consistent trend for the first two maps. Spart1e immediately just manifesting himself on the map, getting those quick opening frags to put himself in the lead, and then we saw it time and time again. His defensive shots were absolutely superb, and Garpy just couldn't find a way through them. It was only until the very final map that we saw something different, and that we actually saw Garpy take control from the start and do a lot of damage, land those consistently nice combo kills, but at that point there just wasn't any time left. Still GG's.
Execution just wasn't his friend, was it? And that really is the kind of unfortunate business, if you were to describe Garpy in this series. The ideas were there, it's just his hands didn't really take over, you know, when it mattered the most. There were too many missed rails, too many, even on Ruins, some really kind of misplayed Pika usage. Just situations where you know what he wants to do, but the execution just didn't work out. And Spart1e rarely caught him making a mistake. The only time he was really caught slipping was in that third map, where Garpy kind of really got ahead of him for a little bit. But for the most part, Spart1e, for lack of a better term, he just played better today. That's what we can really say about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most consistent and stable I've seen Spart1e play for a long, long time. And I'm sure Garpy won't be mad at me for saying this, but it always seems that when moments that matter happen, Garpy never really seems to step up to the plate. And it, as you rightly said, execution wasn't there, but also it was a slightly different Garpy to what I'm used to seeing. It does seem like he was pushing and forcing the issues sometimes too much, and it does feel like when he gets into these crucial matchups, he just changes something, and that puts him off what his normal game would be. Whereas Spart1e he did what he needed to do. He played stable, he played consistent, he didn't push out the boat, he didn't take any real high risk plays, and he hit his shots well. So that's all he needed to do to win.